This is an AI avatar of Leasix, founder Rob Lee. Script produced using a custom-trained AI employee in Claude. Video produced using HeyGen. Now, let's begin. You know what keeps me up at night? It's not market shifts. It's not interest rates. It's not even the latest commission lawsuit. It's this. Watching brokerages that I know, teams that I've worked with, companies with incredible values, slowly lose their soul as they grow. And here's the thing. It happens gradually, one hire at a time, one compromised decision at a time, until one day the founder looks around and asks, "What happened to us?" Today, we're going to talk about how to preserve company culture in real estate. Not just preserve it, but actually protect it as you scale. Because growth without culture, that's just addition. Growth with culture, that's multiplication. Let me start by sharing why this matters so much. Culture isn't a luxury. It's not something you think about after you hit your revenue goals. Culture is the operating system of your business. It determines who stays, who leaves, who performs, and who just takes up space. And in real estate, where agents have choices, where they can move to another brokerage with a phone call. Culture is everything. So let's break this down. I'm going to give you 5 tactical approaches to preserving organizational values. These aren't theories. These are practices that work. Here's a question. Can every agent in your organization recite your core values right now without looking them up? If the answer is no, you don't have a culture problem yet. You have a clarity problem. Most real estate companies never truly define their values, or if they do, those values exist in the founder's head. Maybe they're on a website somewhere, but they're not operationalized. Let me give you an example. EXP Realty. They grew from fewer than 2,400 agents to over 50,000 agents in 3 years. Think about that for a second. That's not growth. That's an explosion. And yet, they maintained a culture rated 4.6 to 4.9 out of 5 stars on Glassdoor. They've been named to Glassdoor's Best Places to Work list 4 years running. 94 to 99% of their employees say they'd recommend the company to a friend. How did they do it? They established 9 core values: community, service, sustainability, collaboration, transparency, integrity, innovation, agile, and fun. But here's what made the difference. Those values weren't just posted on a wall, they were integrated into their operations. Their CEO, Jason Gesing, talks about being obsessed with agent success. That's not a slogan. That's a value that shows up in their training, their technology, their compensation structure. So here's your first tactical step. Sit down. Write out your core values. Not what sounds good, what's true, what you actually believe. Then ask yourself, how does this show up in our onboarding? How does this show up in our weekly meetings? How does this show up when we're deciding whether to take on a new listing or not? If it doesn't show up anywhere, it's not a value. It's a wish. Let me tell you something that might be controversial. The fastest way to destroy your culture is to bring on a top producer who doesn't share your values. I know what you're thinking. But Rob, they close deals. They bring in revenue. We need that. Here's what I've learned, and research backs this up. Agents in companies with clearly defined cultures earn higher commissions. That's not my opinion. That's from a study in the American Journal of Management, but here's the key finding. When cultural fit was strong, agent performance went up. When it was weak, everything suffered. Morale, retention, even the client experience. So what does hiring for cultural fit actually look like? It means your interview process includes questions about values, not just experience. It means you're asking candidates to describe a time they had to choose between doing what was easy and doing what was right. It means you're listening for how they talk about their previous teams. And onboarding? That's where you either reinforce your culture or lose it entirely. Here's what works. Create an onboarding process that immerses new agents in your values from day one. Not a 1-hour orientation. A structured program that shows them what you stand for and how you operate. EXP does this through their virtual campus environment. They provide 24/7 access to training and collaboration tools. New agents aren't just thrown into the deep end. They're surrounded by the culture immediately. And if you find out during onboarding that someone isn't aligned, that's when you make the hard call. It's better to course correct early than to let a cultural mismatch poison the team. Culture doesn't maintain itself. Let me say that again. Culture doesn't maintain itself. You can have the best values in the world, but if you're not actively reinforcing them, they fade. So what are rituals and touch points? They're the recurring practices that bring your culture to life. Let me give you a real example. Parks Realty in Nashville. They manage 600 plus agents across 10 offices, over $2 billion in sales, and they were named the #1 top workplace by the Nashville Business Journal. Their COO, Jenny Barnett, said their success came from carefully defined processes, not processes that stifled creativity, processes that provided structure. And here's what's brilliant. They built systems that could be updated company-wide in 1 minute. When they needed to roll out a new form or a new procedure, every agent got it simultaneously. That kind of consistency reinforces culture because it says we're all operating under the same standards. So what are your rituals? Maybe it's a weekly team meeting where you spotlight an agent who embodied your values that week. Maybe it's a monthly all hands where you share wins and lessons learned. Maybe it's a quarterly retreat where you revisit your mission and vision. The specifics matter less than the consistency because rituals create shared experiences, and shared experiences create culture. I'll also say this, recognition matters. When someone does something that aligns with your values, call it out, publicly. Let everyone know that this is what success looks like here. Here's where most brokers and team leaders lose the culture war. They create great values, they hire well, they set up rituals, and then they don't enforce them. Let me be direct. If your stated value is integrity, but you let your top producer bend the rules, your actual value is revenue at any cost, and everyone on your team sees it. Accountability starts at the top. You can't ask your agents to be transparent if you're hiding information. You can't ask them to collaborate if you're operating in silos. You can't ask them to serve the community if you're not serving them. Leadership during a cultural challenge is everything. When someone violates your values, even if they're bringing in business, what do? This is the moment that defines whether your culture is real or performative. I've seen brokerages lose their culture because they refused to let go of a high-earning agent who was toxic to the team. And I've seen brokerages thrive because they made the hard call to part ways with someone who didn't align. Here's the truth. When you hold people accountable to your values, you send a message to everyone else. You're saying, this is who we are, and we mean it. And when you lead by example, you give your team permission to do the same. They watch what you do more than they listen to what you say. Let me close with this. Culture is not static. Markets change. Teams grow. Technology evolves. And your culture has to adapt. But adaptation doesn't mean abandonment. There's a difference between tactical flexibility and cultural compromise. That same research I mentioned earlier, it showed that as real estate firms grew, the successful ones evolved from clan cultures to market cultures. Smaller firms thrived with family-like collaboration. Larger firms needed results-oriented structures. But here's the key. The core values didn't change. The way those values showed up changed. So as you grow, ask yourself, what are the non-negotiables? What are the principles we will never compromise on? Maybe it's how you treat clients. Maybe it's transparency in commission splits. Maybe it's investing in agent development. Those are your anchors. Everything else can be adjusted based on what the business needs. EXP grew by 20 times in 3 years, but their 9 core values didn't change. What changed was how they delivered on those values at scale. They built technology, they created new systems, but the foundation remained the same. Parks Realty rebranded from Bob Parks Realty to Parks. They updated their image, they modernized their approach, but their family-friendly atmosphere, that stayed. Their commitment to defined processes, that stayed. Adaptation is not compromise. It's evolution in service of your principles. So here's the recap. Number 1, define and document your core values clearly. Make them visible and operational. Number 2, hire and onboard for cultural fit, not just skills. Your team composition determines your culture. Number 3, create consistent rituals and touch points. Culture requires maintenance. Number 4, lead by example and hold everyone accountable. Your actions define your values more than your words. Number 5, adapt without abandoning core principles. Evolve with the market, but stay anchored to who you are. Culture is not something that happens to you. It's something you build intentionally, consistently, and courageously. Because at the end of the day, your culture is your legacy. Long after a transaction closes, long after a listing expires, what people remember is how you made them feel and what you stood for. So take the time, do the work, preserve what matters. If you found value in this video, I'd encourage you to share it with another broker or team leader who's navigating growth. And if you want more resources on building and preserving culture in real estate, check out the links in the description. Thanks for watching. Now go build something worth preserving.